And now, Lifestyles Unlimited presents the Real Estate Investor Radio Show. Over the next hour, we unfold your map to financial freedom. You'll learn how to retire through investing in single-family and multifamily real estate. You'll learn how to create cash flow and build wealth so you can have the time and money to live the lifestyle you want.
Hello and welcome to the show. This is Andy Webb with Lifestyles Unlimited. And as always, we're working on your financial freedom. And today I want to take you on a road trip, and among other things, I want to tell you about another great market that you might consider for residential real estate investing, rental investing, both single family and multifamily. This is a great market. And if during the course of the show you have any questions, you can send those to me. You can send those to askandy@luinc.com. Again, askandy@luinc.com. So what market are we talking about? Am I there now? You know, I like to do a lot of road trips, a lot of traveling with my family. Am I traveling in the RV bunker? No. In fact, this was actually a really, really quick trip for us, relatively. I mean, what is fast? For us, about still 9 or 10 days driving, but traveling very light and loose, right? Fast, let's go. Actually staying in hotels. Normally we go out for a month or longer in the RV, but not this time. So what are the stats? We drove round trip about 1,944 miles. I kept an eye on the odometer there for you. 1,944 miles over about a week and a half. And what was the destination? Well, it was Indianapolis, Indiana, by way of Nashville, Tennessee. And I did actually broadcast from Nashville last week. We talked a little bit with Lee about Tennessee, and there are actually a number of shows that we've done over the past few months on Tennessee as a market, as a place to go to invest in both single family and multifamily. You can go to lifestylesunlimited.com and find those shows archived there. So we talked last week about Tennessee, but why Indianapolis? Why Indiana? Well, very simply, Lifestyles Unlimited had a multifamily road trip there, and I'll explain what that means. So why drive 1,944 miles to go to this multifamily road trip? Sounds like a long way. Why not fly? Well, I got 3 reasons for you. There are probably more if I spent a few minutes and thought about these in greater detail, but big one for us. You say road trip, I say, yeah, let's go. Need I say more? No, I love the opportunity to take my family out on the road to see this great country of ours. In this case, cruising through middle America, parts of the country that my son, he's 6 years old, he's not seen before. So instead of homeschooling, we take it on the road. That's called road schooling. And in fact, we got to stop, for example, at Lincoln's birthplace in Kentucky. He's very fascinated at his age with President Lincoln. So it was a great opportunity to dig in and learn a little bit more. For him. And number 2 reason, well, learning as well for us, learning and connecting with respect to investing, learning about new markets, meeting new people, always a great opportunity for an investor. And number 3, and this is personal to us, we actually got to see a few of our apartment investors on that road trip. So, hey, why not? Let's go. We never seen them before. Just another excuse really to have some fun and do some traveling. You have to understand as well, if you're new to the show, my wife and I, we're real estate retired. That's what we call it here. We're financially free. We've built up a portfolio of cash flowing assets. So I retired from corporate America about 1.5 years or so ago. So I have the time. Why not? Let's do this thing. And if you're not financially free yet, well, let's work on that. That is one of the big purposes of this show and what we do at Lifestyles Unlimited. In this case, this was a multifamily road trip. That's what we call these. It's going to see some apartments. So why invest in apartments? And how do you do that? Well, we did it along the road after investing in single family. Actually, we got retired on our single family thanks to the cash flow, but you can start with apartments. And the goal for you is, as it was for us, to get to that financial freedom. And you do it by creating that passive income, creating that cash flow. Retirement is not a pile of cash. You're going to get to that pile of cash, think you're ready to retire, watch it start to dwindle, start to panic, biggest fear people have when they think about retirement is not having enough money. And they're thinking about that pile. But what I'm talking about is not a pile, it's a steady stream. It's a steady stream that comes in no matter where you are, whether you're out on the road like we were, whether you're down on the coast, down by Galveston enjoying the beaches, somewhere else around the world, doesn't matter. That cash flow is coming in. And that starts by building a portfolio, whether it's multifamily or single family. In this case, you can do both. We talk about both on this program and at Lifestyles Unlimited. So we're retired on our single family cash flow, but we've started to invest in apartments as passive investors in order to build wealth and equity. So we're growing that wealth through apartments, and we got to see just a couple of those that we've added to our portfolio over the past handful of years. And why apartments? Well, we make money 6 different ways with apartment investing. 6 ways. Where else can you do that? Where else can you make money 6 ways? I already mentioned one, that's the cash flow. Equity capture can be a very big one, whether single family or apartments. It's very big in the single family space right now. And in fact, we got in another apartment investment on the Texas coast that appraisal came in, I think it was about $2 million higher than purchase price. So the lead investor, the syndicator that put this investment together, did a really good job in negotiating. So we just made money out the door. That's equity capture. Equity buildup. Well, we do have loans on these properties. We leverage in order to go farther. And over the years, right, every month, our residents pay down the mortgage for us. Of course, market appreciation, that happens. And specific to apartments, we have forced appreciation, where those owners, those leads are going in and doing something to increase the cash flow that we talked about, and that drives up the value because this is a business. If you look around outside of Lifestyles, you'll see the term syndicator, general partner, sponsor, deal sponsor, something like that. These are the people that are putting together this apartment syndication, and they lead the investment. They are at the helm. I'm not at the helm as a passive investor. I'm just sitting back watching their good stewardship of my investment and waiting for that cash flow and waiting for those gains at the end when we either do a cash out refinance or sell. But that's what a lead does. And an aspiring lead, well, they haven't quite gotten that far. They're in the process of finding and buying that first investment. Good people to know, by the way. Lots of locals, of course, here in Indy at the time. Huge. I was a little surprised. I showed up with my truck with my Texas plates. I was not the only one. We had a few other folks drive from Texas. A lot of people flew from Texas. A big group was there from Texas, people I see around here all the time. And a big group came down from Michigan. So big contingents from these states, but that wasn't it. Met a family from California that had flown in. Met a lead investor from Arizona that had flown in. So we had people coming in from all over the country. And again, it started inside at the hotel. And what did we do? We just sat down, enjoyed some coffee, some breakfast together, donuts, whatnot, and learned about the property that the lead investor was going to take us to, how they found it, why they invested in it, what made this apartment community a good investment, what was the vision that they had when they saw this thing. And it didn't just stop with the vision. They actually got into the numbers. Expected returns, gains so far, cash flow, etc. What are they doing to add value to create that equity that we talk about? What projects specifically? What's been done? What's on the horizon? And in this case, they did this times 2, because this lead couple bought not just one, but they had a second investment they just closed on this year, and they talked us through both of those. One was stabilized, bought back a couple of years ago, and the second one literally just closed a few months ago. And they really take us behind the curtain. And it's not just at this multifamily road trip. If you go to the one in Phoenix, if you go down to Houston, come out to Dallas to the road trips here, they really take you behind the curtain and you really look at those numbers. And if you're just new to this, it's really eye-opening. They share a lot of vital information, stuff about their business plan. Where else does a business owner get into that kind of detail with people he doesn't even know or she doesn't know? Really valuable information. So we sat in the hotel and we learned all of this stuff over probably a couple of hours. And then we got into our cars, carpooled, and drove out to those, not one, but in this case, two properties. Normally you just go to one property, but this one was unique again in that this lead couple had taken down 2 apartment communities very close to each other. So if we're going to make the trip from California and from Phoenix and from Texas and down the road from Michigan, man, let's get out there and let's see them both. And so we saw them both. And we got an idea of the before and after. The one that they just bought, well, they're still in the process of putting that business plan into play and rehabbing those apartments. So we got in and we saw one that was in the before state. where it was a little bit abused by the outgoing residents. The prior owner was not doing a great job of putting good people, good residents into these properties. So part of their job is to help them find the exit door and then go in and do the renovation. So we saw the before, and then we walked through the after. And I will tell you, the change is just stunning. It's stunning. It looks great. That's the one they're going through right now. The one that they're about 2 years in now already looks wonderful. You know, the other one closed just earlier this year. Amazing location with really awesome amenities. So it was really cool to be able to, lay eyes on the investments that my wife and I as a family are passively participating in. So that was one of the big reasons for us. I just want to, hey, road trip, let's do it. And great opportunity to get a look at these awesome investments. Glad we're participating. Now, that's the road trip, right? In a nutshell, hotel, lots of information, lots of details, and then see the properties, touch it, smell it, right? See the residents, talk with some of the staff, and then lunch afterwards for more networking, a lot of networking. And in this case, again, because it was out of state, there was even a bonus day 2 with 2 powerhouses from the Lifestyles organization that came in for kind of a bigger picture Q&A around apartment investing, what's going on nationally. And I see this from time to time at the various road trip events. If you're a member, pay attention, because you may see people like this was, in this case, the executive VP of Lifestyles, Lynn Murrow. She was my single family mentor over a decade ago when my wife and I began as investors. She's been around a long time. She's seen a lot. She's talked to thousands and thousands of members, has a lot of stories to share, and she shared some of those. But she wasn't by herself. They also brought out operations consultant Teresa Harrell. She's has a long tenure in the apartment space, and she's been with Lifestyles helping lead investors and aspiring leads as they get into that new apartment investment, work through operations. If there's any kind of difficulty or any kind of questions they have, where do they go? They talk to their mentors. We have mentors to help the investors, the leads. But they also talk with the operations consultants. And Teresa, again, doing this a long time, been in the apartment management space for decades, she'll tell you. Lots of experience. And we really got to kind of rub elbows with them and pick their brains as a crowd and understand what's going on out in the market. Now, do you have to drive all the way to Indy to participate in one of these road trips? I'll tell you when we get back.
Got questions? Call Lifestyles Unlimited at 855-497-4335. The Real Estate Investor Radio Show continues next.
A woman came up to me a couple years ago. She goes, Del, this retirement stuff's great and everything, but I got a problem. I go, what's that? She goes, I married my husband for good, bad, ugly, for the rest of our life, better or worse, but not to have him at home with me every day. Get him out of here.
Sound like a problem you'd want? Learn how to retire in 5 years or less. Go to lifestylesunlimitedworkshop.com.
Creating the lifestyle you've always wanted. You're hearing Lifestyles Unlimited's Real Estate Investor Radio Show.
Welcome back to the show. I thank you for tuning in today. My name is Andy Webb. I'm back in Dallas-Fort Worth, but we were out on the road. We were out on the road again, not in the RV bunker, not traveling in the RV like we normally do for a month or greater at a time. This was a quick trip all the way up to Indianapolis, Indiana, to go on a multifamily road trip. It was a multifamily road trip for us. And as I've been describing to you what happened at that road trip, and similar things happen at other road trips around Texas and in other states, you may be thinking, well, geez, do I have to go all the way to Indiana to attend one of these road trips? No, not at all. A lot of the listeners that I'm speaking to now are in Texas, and you have it very easy. You have it very easy. We have those going on in Dallas-Fort Worth. We have those going on in Houston. We have those going on in Central Texas, and we may go out to other markets around Texas as part of those. So for you, it's very easy. And I have those coming up later in the month here in Texas, and then pretty much monthly. October we'll have it, November, etc. So you don't have to, if you're local here in Texas, very easy for you. If you're not, what do you do? Well, yeah, we do have those going on, like I said, coming up in Phoenix. So if you're in the Arizona, California, Nevada area, hey, maybe make that trip. It'll be worth your time. Or if you're in the Atlanta, Georgia, South Carolina, southeastern Tennessee. Boy, we're going to have one in Atlanta. Easy for you. Now, if you can't make that trip, well, you don't really have to even leave your house. We actually have these typically presented virtually as well. Now, why do this? Great, Andy. Multifamily Road Trip. Sounds like you had a blast. Several nights in Nashville. Saw the Parthenon. We heard about that. But why go on a multifamily road trip at all? This goes back to the networking. And I mentioned the evening before where we were racing go-karts, eating pizza, having a good time, chit-chatting. That's networking. And the morning of the road trip, before things fired up, drinking the coffee, eating some donuts together, networking. Who did I meet there as part of networking? Well, obviously the syndicators, the deal leads, the leads that put together these investments for us. Great to shake hands with them, talk with them mano a mano once again. But it wasn't just them. There were other leads, and I mentioned aspiring leads. I was surprised. There were a lot of them there. And there were a lot of passive investors as well. So those are people you can network. So why should you go? Well, if you're a passive investor like I am, you're going to meet new lead investors. One of the passive investors, he was up from Austin, Texas. His name was Dustin. He said as much. He said that is his job. Like I am, he is real estate retired. He is financially free. He has some single family just like I do. And he's investing passively in apartments. He's been doing it for quite a bit longer than I have. And he said, this is my job, getting out and meeting other passives, and more importantly, meeting those leads and those aspiring leads. If I want to get into that next apartment investment, I need to know who's going to be bringing that investment. I need to get to know them. And while you're there, you're going to get it as a passive. You're going to get educated. You're going to stay educated. Every time you go to one of these events, you will come away with some new kernel of knowledge, if not multiple kernels, and you'll get better connected. You'll talk to other passives about those leads and other leads that they have experience with. So before I go into an investment, I want to know as much as I can about that syndicator. Other passives will be able to tell me that. So great place to go if you're a passive investor, obviously, and if you're a lead or syndicator or an aspiring lead, very important for you, because guess who's in that audience? A lot of passive investors. You can't put together a syndication, an apartment syndication, if you don't have people contributing their funds to that investment, can you? So of those 80, 85, however many people there were, I know when the leads of those two apartments said, hey, how many investors do we have in the audience? Practically everybody's hands went up. So those are all passive investors, close to 80, I would say, in that room. So you're going to meet those people, get acquainted, and work to have them perhaps in your next investment. So whether you're passive or lead or aspiring lead, it's very important from a networking perspective. And as a lead, and especially for the aspiring leads, you get to meet the other leads that are active in your market. Before we exited the room after the general details on the two properties, the leads and the aspiring leads that were there, they got up and they just passed the mic and took turns introducing themselves. And we had a couple minutes afterwards to go up and introduce ourselves. Okay, I did not know that you were a lead or aspiring lead. And again, going back to that Michigan contingent, I met a lot of people that are working on apartment syndicating in Michigan. These are people I probably would not have met down in Dallas. Now, they may come out to the Lifestyles Unlimited Wealth and Passive Income Expo. That's a great place to meet leads and aspiring leads. But I met a ton there. Great opportunity. So if you're passive, it's networking. If you're a lead, it's networking. If you're an aspiring lead or even an IRO, it's networking. IRO's an independent owner. And then education. Obviously, as we're being presented these numbers and learning about the business plan, seeing what worked great, maybe what didn't work, or maybe where we had to pivot on this particular investment, there's a lot of opportunity to learn. So the education is huge. I, as a passive investor, should constantly be learning. That's why day 2, the Q&A with Lynn and Teresa was very, very big, very, very big session. So education, let's isolate this piece, education. And you need to understand, if you're new to the show, Lifestyles Unlimited is an education and mentoring group. That is our focus. Now, we focus on both single family and multifamily, but we want to get you educated so that you can go out and successfully invest and create your financial freedom, create that cash flow, build wealth. And Multifamily Road Trips, this is just another form of the education that you can avail yourself of. There are lots of other ways, in-person events, live, a lot of live online, lunch and learn sort of webinars, seminars, stuff like that. and a ton of online coursework. I talked last week with Lee, and I asked him the question. So let's say I go out to the Financial Freedom Seminar. That's the famous 2-day that we do, 8 hours on Saturday, 8 hours on Sunday, all about single family and all about apartment investing. You come away knowing enough at that seminar to go out and start making investments. But I asked him, is it one and done? I go through the Financial Freedom Seminar, sure, I can come back, but do I just kind of go on my way? No, it is amazing. And I have my education portal up right now. It is amazing the volume of coursework that you can continue to do. In fact, there are certifications that you can get as a passive investor that show that lead or aspiring lead that you are educated and sophisticated. By the way, to invest passively in apartments, typically you need to be either accredited, high net worth, high income, or sophisticated. This education, if you do it and follow through with it, can get you there. So what we're about to talk about, we're going to get into Indiana because I want you to understand that as a market, because it is a great rental market, whether we're talking single family or multifamily. Obviously, we have members that are investing right now in Indianapolis in the multifamily space. And during the road trip, I noticed there were some single family investors as well from the area. I think they were from the area buying houses in and around the Indiana market. So virtual road trips, whether acquisition or otherwise, are just a good way to get that education and learn about these other markets. Now, I do want to get into Indiana because that's where we were. That's where these apartments are located. And a lot of my knowledge in this case came from the syndicators, from the leads that were putting the couple of investments up there together. Great presentation. Typically there will be some kind of a webinar before you passively invest, and they'll tell you about the investment. They'll tell you about themselves, right? The jockey and the horse. But they're going to tell you about that track where you're going to be running that race as well. Now, of course, talking to other members, as I just mentioned, and doing your own research, right? But let's talk about Indiana. And I've actually pulled up from those couple of investments the business plans and the kind of documentation they put together just concerning Indiana as a market. I'm going to look at the most recent investment because that was earlier this year. And Indiana fundamentals. All right, I'm just going to piggyback on this. Excellent place, like I said, to invest in real estate. We see people doing it obviously in multifamily and in the single family space as well. Indiana is the second most, not first, we'll get to the first, but second most landlord friendly state behind Texas. So if you're going to invest in a rental house or in apartments and you run into complications, you want to know that if you've got to do something to move those folks to the exit door like we talked about, that you're going to be able to do that in an efficient manner. Texas is great for that. Most people know that. Great for rental owners. Indiana is number 2. This is according to some, you'll probably find other rankings out there, but it's going to be at the top of whatever list you look at. Most rental owner friendly state. All right. Property taxes. Here I am in Dallas-Fort Worth where those things have been skyrocketing. You're not going to see Texas in number 1 place or number 2 or number 10. But Indiana, the Tax Foundation rated Indiana the number 1 state for property taxes. So the way they handle their property taxes, you can do your searches online, but the burden of proof is on the assessor. You've got an advantage here, and they're capped for a period of time. So at the depreciated value. So a lot of advantages from property tax perspective. And I don't think they go into it here, but insurance, we talked about that as well. They just don't have the catastrophic storms. In fact, prior to the lead investors talking, they brought on part of their team, which was an insurance agent he's actually on the vendor list for Lifestyles Unlimited, and he talked about insurance. And they just don't have the catastrophic storms like we're hearing about Lee right now. Not Lee that I interviewed last week, but Lee that is headed for the Atlantic coast. Just don't have that. So insurance is very low. Taxes and insurance, those are 2 of your biggest ticket items when it comes to expenses as a rental owner. Very low. Good news for cash flow. Indiana, great state from that perspective, but it gets better. Indiana is the number 1 best Midwest state for business. Okay, forget about New York, forget about all the great things going on down here in Texas. If you're looking at the Midwest, this is the place to go. Again, this is a 2020 CEO magazine ranking, and very stable. I can think of some states that don't appear very stable to me, but Indiana is consistently ranked as one of the top fiscally strongest states in the country by both Standard & Poor's as well as Moody's and Fitch. So that's important. I don't want the state to go bankrupt and start to do what? Raise taxes. right? Come after our money that way. So very, very fundamentally strong market. We heard rental owner friendly, great for business, favorable on the expense side for us from the taxes and insurance perspective. And if you dive a little deeper, in this case, we were talking about Indianapolis. It's a big city. And we had a little bit of time to look around. We enjoyed some time up north of there in a little town called Carmel. I think I drove through about 15 traffic circles just to get from point A to point B over about 2 miles. Crazy little place, but fun time. And it's a very diverse area. Very diverse area. The economy, much like we have here in Texas, has a very diverse employment base. So as we talk about recessions and is it coming, is it not, on this program quite a bit. And I really don't know the answer for you right now, but when I look at the spread of their employment base, I see finance and insurance. I see manufacturing. A lot of Motor Cities just north of there, right? A lot of support for that. Manufacturing, food services, a lot of IT. In fact, this is a very strong growth area for IT. Healthcare is a big one. I think that's probably true of anywhere, and education as well. So there's a good base there. And I like to see that. I can tell you if I look across my tenant base across Dallas-Fort Worth, they're very broadly represented because Texas as well, Dallas and Fort Worth have a very broad employment base as well. That's good for you as you start to get bigger. If you're talking apartments, you can get a more diverse resident base. And the long-term growth, kind of like Texas, it's very steady. If you're looking at appreciation in terms of property values, steady Eddie, right? They're going to win the race. Rents, on the other hand, although they've appreciated generally on average about 3-4%, something like that, they shot up. They really shot up in the past couple of years. Now, is that going to return back to normal? Possibly. I don't know. But just looking at the fundamentals, I've looked at this twice now as we've gone into multiple investments in that market, once 2 years ago and again now. And everything I just told you has changed more favorably. If I go back and look at the presentation from 2021, Indiana's actually gotten better, moved from second position into pole position in a number of instances. So really good market. If you're out there pondering and postulating where I'm going to go next, we've talked about Tennessee, we've talked about South Carolina, we've talked about Georgia, Texas, Arizona, Indiana. Good place to go as well. Now, you might be asking, okay, that's great. How do I start? You've talked about these road trips. This is for preferred members. These are for people that are focused on apartments. I am now focused on apartments. So I've committed to going down that path. So I'm going to as many of these events as I can. You may start out and say, I don't want to do that. I want to go the single family route. That's okay. That's okay. You'll have some decisions to make as you figure this out. Just like doing your due diligence on that new market like we talked about, or that new lead investor, or that apartment community. I want you to do your due diligence on us, on Lifestyles Unlimited. Get to know Lifestyles Unlimited. Keep tuning in to this radio program. Listen to Del Walmsley on his show. Tune in to Mike Harrison and Al Gordon. You can catch the podcast if you go to lifestylesunlimited.com, find those on the radio tab, or go to any podcast app out there. You'll find the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show. If you have questions, send those to me. Ask Andy at luinc.com. Again, ask Andy at luinc.com. And while you're on our website, go to lifestylesunlimited.com. There's a button there for our free workshop. And that's where you start. Go register for the free workshop. We'll learn more about what we do, the 6 ways we make money in apartments. We talked about that, how we make money in houses, look at some case studies, and get started. Yeah, thank you for listening. And remember, it's not the money, it's the lifestyle.
The information and opinions you hear on the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show are those of the hosts, guests, and callers. The Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show is for entertainment purposes only. Please consult a professional regarding your personal investment needs. Nothing presented constitutes an endorsement, recommendation, offer, or solicitation to buy or sell any product or security.